The boot connected with the chair leg hard enough to send it skidding backward across the beer-stained floor. Captain Alexis Kane hit the ground, her shoulder taking the impact, her head missing the table's corner by inches. The bar went silent. Every conversation stopped. Every glass paused halfway to mouths that had suddenly forgotten how to drink. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Bull Crawford stood over her, 6'3" of muscle and arrogance, backlit by the neon Budweiser sign like some twisted halo. He was laughing, not the nervous laughter of a man who'd made a mistake, the confident laughter of a man who believed he just put someone in their place. "Stay down, sweetheart," Bull said, his voice carrying across the Anchor's Rest like he owned every square inch of the place. "This is a bar for real warriors, not little girls playing soldier." Alexis wiped her mouth. Her lip was split. She could taste copper, that familiar metallic tang she'd tasted in a dozen countries most Americans couldn't find on a map. She stood up slowly, her movements controlled, measured. Her heart rate hadn't changed. 72 beats per minute, the same as when she'd been sitting in the booth, the same as when she'd been in Yemen 3 weeks ago, watching 3 of her operators bleed out in the sand. "You should leave now, Gunnery Sergeant," she said. Her voice came out calm, flat, showing nothing he could use. Bull laughed harder. The sound was ugly, performative, designed for the 8 young Marines clustered around his table like disciples at the feet of a prophet who smelled like Jack Daniels and bad decisions. "Or what?" Bull took a step closer. His shadow fell across her like a threat. "You gonna file a complaint? Call your boyfriend to come rescue you? Good luck, princess. Everyone in this bar knows me. No one knows you. Whatever you think happened here, it didn't." Alexis held his eyes. Hers were dark brown, almost black in the dim light, and they didn't blink, didn't waver, didn't show the calculation happening behind them, the assessment of angles and force vectors, the 17 different ways she could put this man on the ground before he finished his next sentence. She chose none of them. "I know you," she said quietly. "Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Crawford, 16 years, Marine Corps, 3 deployments. Camp Pendleton, 29 Palms, currently stationed at Miramar." Bull's smile tightened. "Someone did their homework. Doesn't change the fact that you're in the wrong place, sweetheart. This is the Anchor's Rest. 3 blocks from Naval Base Coronado. Been here 42 years. This is where warriors drink, where men who've seen combat come to forget, to fight, to feel something other than the weight of service." "I know what it is," Alexis said. "My father drank here 30 years ago when he came back from Desert Storm. Same booth I was sitting in. The one you just kicked me out of." Bull's face darkened. "Your father. Let me guess. Some desk jockey who wore the uniform but never saw real action? Raise his little girl to think she could do a man's job?" Alexis's jaw tightened. Just slightly. Just enough. "You should walk away now." "I'm done walking away." Bull's hand shot out. Not a punch, a push. Dismissive. Contemptuous. The kind you use on furniture that's in your way. Alexis saw it coming. Read his weight shift, his shoulder telegraph, the micro expression that preceded action. She could have blocked it, could have countered, could have used his momentum against him, could have swept his leg, could have had him face down on this same beer-stained floor in 3 seconds flat. She chose not to. The push connected with her shoulder. Hard. Alexis let herself go with the force. Didn't resist. Let physics do its work. She hit the floor for the second time in as many minutes, and this time she bit her lip hard enough to draw fresh blood. From his position behind the bar, Pete Whitman watched the whole thing. 68 years old, retired Navy corpsman, owner of the Anchor's Rest since 1998. He'd served in Vietnam in 68 and 69, seen things that still woke him up at night 56 years later. And he recognized something in the young woman's eyes as she stood up for the second time. Something familiar, something dangerous. "You should leave now, Gunnery Sergeant," Alexis said again. The same words, The same calm tone, blood on her lip, dignity intact. Bull opened his mouth to escalate, and the television cut to emergency broadcast. The bright red banner appeared across the bottom of the screen. Breaking news! The CNN anchor's voice cut through the bar's sudden silence like a knife through fog. Active shooter situation at Naval Training Facility Coronado. Multiple hostages reported. All military personnel in the area advised to report immediately. The footage showed police cars, barricades, chaos. The facility was 5 minutes away. Bull's demeanor shifted instantly. The performance dropped. The warrior returned. Or what passed for warrior in a man who'd spent more time telling war stories than fighting wars. Marines, on me! His voice had changed. Command voice. The one he used when he remembered he was actually a gunnery sergeant and not just the loudest drunk in the bar. We've got personnel in danger. Let's move. His crew jumped to action. They were good Marines. Young, fit, trained. They weren't the problem. Their leadership was. Bull looked at Alexis one last time. The contempt was still there, but now it was mixed with something else. Pity, maybe, or just the reflexive assumption that she'd stay here, where it was safe, while real operators did real work. Stay here, princess, he said. This is work for real warriors. He turned and led his Marines out into the San Diego night. The door swung shut behind them. The bar stayed quiet for another moment, then slowly the conversations resumed. Someone fed quarters into the jukebox. Creedence Clearwater Revival started playing. Fortunate Son. The irony was lost on no one. Pete approached with a bar towel full of ice. Up close, he could see the details. The way she held herself, the scars on her knuckles, the calluses on her hands that came from handling weapons, not from typing reports. The way her eyes tracked the door Bull had just exited through, calculating, always calculating. You gonna press charges? Pete asked, handing her the ice. No, you should. I saw the whole thing. He assaulted you. I've got security camera footage. Alexis pressed the ice to her lip. I've got more important things to deal with tonight. She pulled out her phone. Not a personal cell, a military-issue secure device. She dialed a number from memory, a number she wasn't supposed to have anymore. A direct line she'd been ordered not to use while she was under investigation. The voice that answered was gravel and whiskey, aged oak and old smoke. This is Kane. Dad, Alexis said. I'm 5 minutes from the situation at the training facility. I'm responding. Silence on the other end. Then, Lexi, you're on administrative leave. You're not authorized for operational duty. The investigation isn't closed. 12 hostages, Dad. Active shooter. 5 minutes away. You really want to argue protocol while people die? Another silence. Longer this time. In that silence, Alexis could hear 30 years of her father's career, could hear the echoes of decisions made under impossible circumstances, could hear the weight of command that never really left you, even after retirement. You know what they'll say, Master Chief Daniel Kane said finally. His voice was quiet now, private, father to daughter, not commander to operator. They'll say you went rogue. They'll say you ignored orders. They'll use this against you in the investigation. Same thing they said about you in '91. The silence that followed that statement was different, heavier. 33 years collapsed into nothing. The Gulf War, the court-martial, the decision that had defined Daniel Kane's career and nearly ended it. Yeah, Daniel said softly. Same thing they said about me. And I'd make the same choice again, every time. So would I. I know. Daniel's voice changed again, harder now, operational. Get there, but Lexi, listen to me. You're not in command. You observe. You advise. You do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Are we clear? Crystal. And Lexi, don't make the loud choice. The right answer isn't always the obvious one. I know, Dad. You taught me that. She hung up. Pete was still standing there, still holding the towel, still watching her with eyes that had seen too much to be easily fooled. "Kane," Pete said slowly, "your father is Daniel Kane, Master Chief Daniel Kane." It wasn't a question. "You know him?" Pete's hand went to his left forearm, unconsciously tracing a scar that ran from elbow to wrist. "Vietnam, 1968, Hue City. I was 18 years old, Navy corpsman attached to a Marine rifle company. We got hit. RPG turned our APC into a crematorium. I was trapped inside with 2 Marines, both of them burning. Your father was 20 years old. SEAL advisor attached to our unit. He pulled us out, took shrapnel in 3 places doing it, told me, 'Not today, Doc, not on my watch.'" Pete's eyes were wet now. Old memories, old ghosts. That little girl he used to bring in here, 10, 11 years old, sat in that same booth while he had a beer and told sea stories to whoever would listen. That was you? That was me. Jesus Christ. Pete looked at the door Bull had exited through. That jarhead kicked Daniel Kane's daughter to the ground and called her princess. He didn't know. Would it matter if he did? Alexis smiled for the first time that night. It wasn't a pleasant smile. No, it wouldn't. She headed for the door. Behind her, Pete called out, "Hey, you gonna be okay?" Alexis paused, looked back. "I'm a SEAL, Pete, not a victim. I'll be fine." "What about that gunnery sergeant? He's gonna feel pretty stupid when he finds out who you are." Alexis's smile widened, and now there was something sharp in it. Something that would have made Bull Crawford very nervous if he'd been there to see it. "He's going to feel a lot of things before tonight is over," she said. "Stupid is probably the least of them." She walked out into the San Diego night. The door swung shut behind her. Credence kept playing to a bar that was already forgetting what had happened, already moving on to the next drink, the next story, the next moment. But Pete didn't forget. He pulled out his own phone, scrolled through his contacts until he found a number he hadn't called in 5 years. It rang 4 times before someone picked up. "This is Kane." "Daniel, it's Pete Whitman, from the Anchor's Rest." "Pete? Jesus, how long's it been?" "Too long. Listen, your daughter was just here. Some Marine gunnery sergeant put his hands on her, knocked her down, called her princess." The silence on the other end was absolute. Then, "Is she hurt?" Lips split. "But Daniel, she didn't fight back. She could have. I've seen enough combat to know a trained operator when I see one. She could have destroyed him, but she just stood up and walked away." "She's under investigation," Daniel said quietly. "Any use of force, any aggressive response, they'll use it against her. Say she's too violent, too emotional, too unstable for command." "That's horse shit. That's the Navy. Did she file a complaint?" "She said no, but I'm filing one anyway. I've got it on security camera, clear as day. Assault, witnessed by 15 people. Pete, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. You saved my life in Hue. Your daughter's about to save God knows how many lives at that training facility. The least I can do is make sure that jarhead answers for putting his hands on her." Another pause. Then Daniel's voice, thick with something that might have been gratitude or might have been grief. "Thank you, brother." "Not done yet." "What's her call sign?" "Reaper." "Reaper," Pete repeated. "That's a hell of a call sign for a 22-year-old. "She earned it," Daniel said, 3 times over. Alexis's truck hit the Naval Training Facility parking lot 4 minutes after leaving the Anchor's Rest. The scene was exactly what she'd expected. Chaos wrapped in flashing lights and radio static. 6 SDPD cruisers had formed a hasty perimeter. Officers crouched behind vehicles with weapons drawn, but no clear target to aim at. Facility security personnel were arguing with San Diego PD about jurisdiction, about protocols, about who was in charge of a situation that was rapidly spiraling out of anyone's control. And in the center of it all, Gunnery Sergeant Bull Crawford was already shouting orders like he owned the situation. Alexis parked away from the main cluster, approached on foot, Her tactical mind was already processing the layout, running calculations, building three-dimensional models of sight lines and entry points in fatal funnels. Single-story administrative building, 12 windows facing the parking lot, but 3 of them were blocked from inside by filing cabinets she could see through the gaps in the blinds. 2 main entrances, emergency exits on the east and west sides. The command center where the hostages were being held was dead center of the building. No direct line of sight from outside, no easy approach, no obvious solution. Captain David Martinez of the San Diego Police Department was trying to establish communication with the shooter over a bullhorn. His voice was professional, measured, but Alexis could hear the strain underneath. This was the kind of situation that ended careers or made them, depending on how it went. And right now, it wasn't going well. Derek Walsh, this is Captain Martinez, San Diego Police. We have the building surrounded. Release the hostages and come out peacefully. No one needs to get hurt here. The response was a gunshot. It punched through one of the windows, spider-webbing the glass, embedding itself in the hood of Martinez's cruiser, 15 feet from where he stood. Martinez ducked behind the vehicle. His hands shook slightly as he lowered the bullhorn. Bull pushed his way to the front. He moved like a man who'd spent his entire career being the biggest, loudest presence in any room. Captain Martinez, Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Crawford, United States Marine Corps. I've got 8 combat veterans here, all with active shooter training. We can breach that building and neutralize the threat in under 10 minutes. Martinez looked at Bull, looked at the 8 Marines behind him. Young faces, hard eyes, the kind of men who'd volunteered for the hardest jobs the Corps could throw at them. Good Marines, well-trained, following their NCO's lead. Gunnery Sergeant, I appreciate the offer, Martinez said, but we're waiting for FBI hostage rescue team, ETA 40 minutes. 40 minutes? Bull's voice rose, not quite shouting but close. Captain, you know how many people can die in 40 minutes? I've been in Fallujah, Ramadi, Helmand Province. I know how to handle armed combatants in confined spaces. My team can end this now. Alexis moved closer, close enough to hear the tactical radio chatter. The shooter had been identified as Derek Walsh, former Navy contractor, dishonorably discharged 3 months ago for reasons that were still classified. He'd barricaded himself in the command center with 12 hostages, mix of instructors and trainees. He was armed with an AR-15 and had already fired warning shots. His demands were incoherent, rambling, something about betrayal and justice and things that had been taken from him that he could never get back. Captain Martinez, Alexis said quietly, stepping into the conversation. Bull whipped around. The recognition in his eyes was instant, followed immediately by anger. What the hell are you doing here? I told you to stay at the bar where it's safe. You told me, Alexis said. I didn't agree to it. She turned to Martinez, pulled out her military ID. Not the standard card, the Special Operations ID that marked her as someone who wasn't supposed to exist in official records. Lieutenant Commander Alexis Kane, Naval Special Warfare Command. I'm currently on administrative leave, but I'm trained in hostage rescue operations, and I'm familiar with this facility's layout. Martinez studied her ID, studied her face, looked at Bull, back to her. You two know each other? We met, Alexis said flatly. Bull laughed. It was the same ugly sound from the bar. Met? Lady, you were face down on a bar floor 20 minutes ago, getting taught a lesson about respect. Now you're here pretending to be some kind of tactical expert? He turned to Martinez. Captain, don't waste your time. She's probably admin. Never seen real combat in her life. Just another diversity hire trying to feel important. I'm the person telling you that your breach plan is going to get your Marines killed, Alexis interrupted. Her voice stayed level, but there was steel underneath now, cold and sharp and unbreakable. The east entrance you're planning to use, it's a fatal funnel. The command center has direct line of sight down that entire hallway. Walsh will see you coming from 50 feet away. He'll start shooting hostages before you reach the door. Bull's jaw clenched. And you know this how? X-ray vision? I know this because I taught a close quarters combat course here 6 months ago. I know every entrance, every corridor, every sightline. Alexis pulled out her phone, brought up the facility blueprint she downloaded from the Naval database before leaving the bar. See this? The command center has reinforced doors, limited entry points. Whoever's inside has tactical advantage on anyone trying to breach frontally. Martinez leaned in, studying the blueprint. His expression was serious now, calculating. What's your recommendation, Commander? Don't breach frontally, Alexis said. There's a maintenance access tunnel that runs under the facility. Old HVAC system from the 1980s. It's not on the modern security grid. Nobody's thought about it in 20 years. A small team could insert through the tunnel, position under the command center, and breach from an unexpected angle while you create a distraction at the east entrance. Bull shook his head violently. That's movie nonsense. Real combat isn't about sneaking around in tunnels like some kind of spy. It's about overwhelming force and aggressive action. You hit them hard, you hit them fast. You don't give them time to think. We're not talking about enemy combatants in a war zone, Alexis said. We're talking about 12 hostages in one shooter. Overwhelming force gets hostages killed. And your tunnel plan is based on what? Theory? Have you ever actually executed a hostage rescue? Alexis met his eyes. 47 times, all successful, 0 hostage casualties. The number hung in the air. Bull stared at her, really looked at her for the first time. 22 years old, 5'6", maybe 130 pounds. Split lip from where he'd kicked her chair out from under her less than an hour ago. 47? Bull's voice had lost some of its certainty. You expect me to believe you're what, 22 years old, and you've run 47 hostage rescue operations? 22 years old, 5 years active duty, 3 years with SEAL Team 7. Currently under investigation for tactical decisions made during a classified operation in Yemen 3 weeks ago. Alexis's voice didn't waver. I've done this work, Gunnery Sergeant. I know what I'm talking about. Martinez's radio crackled. Captain, subject is on the PA system again, making new demands. Walsh's voice came through the radio, distorted but audible. You have 15 minutes to meet my demands, or I start executing hostages. 1 every 5 minutes after that. I'm not bluffing. I've got nothing left to lose. You took everything from me. Now I'm taking everything from you. Bull turned to Martinez. Captain, we're out of time. We need to move now. My plan works. I've executed similar operations in combat zones. These aren't combatants, Alexis cut in. They're civilian instructors, 18-year-old trainees. They're terrified. You breach with guns blazing, you'll have hostages running into crossfire. Then they should stay down, Bull snapped. Martinez looked between them. The calculation was obvious on his face. Bull had rank, experience, confidence. Alexis had youth, gender, and an investigation. But David Martinez was 52 years old. He'd been a cop for 23 years. He'd served in Desert Storm in '91 as an Army Ranger. And something in Alexis Kane's calm certainty spoke louder than Bull Crawford's volume. Commander Kane, Martinez said slowly, your father is Daniel Kane, Master Chief Daniel Kane. Alexis nodded. Martinez's expression changed. Baghdad Highway, 1991. Your father extracted my Ranger squad when we were pinned down. Saved 8 of us. I owe him my life. Bull's face went pale. Daniel Kane? The Master Chief from Gulf War? Martinez turned to Alexis. If you're half the operator your father was, your tunnel plan is our best option. He looked at Bull. Gunnery Sergeant, prep your team for the east entrance. But you hold position until I give the order. Commander Kane, show me this tunnel. 5 minutes. Bull's mouth worked. Captain, this is insane. Noted. 5 minutes. Move. Alexis led Martinez to the facility's east side. The access point was exactly where the blueprint showed it, behind a locked gate marked "Authorized Personnel Only," the kind of gate locked so long people forgot it existed. Alexis pulled out her multi-tool, had the lock open in 15 seconds. "You always carry lockpicks?" Martinez asked. "I carry tools that solve problems. Lockpicks solve locked doors." The tunnel entrance was there, narrow, dark, but passable for someone Alexis's size. Martinez shined his flashlight down. The beam disappeared into nothing. "It's tight," he said. "My tactical team won't fit. They're all 200-pound guys in full gear." "I'll fit," Alexis said. "You're on leave. I can't authorize—" "Captain," Alexis's voice cut through. "We don't have time for authorization debates. That tunnel leads under the command center. I can insert, position, and breach from below while Gunnery Sergeant Crawford creates his distraction. Walsh's attention will be divided. That's when we move." Martinez studied her. 22 years old, split lip from assault less than an hour ago. Investigation suggesting she'd cracked under pressure. But her eyes were steady, her voice calm, and something in how she held herself reminded him of the best operators from Desert Storm. "You've really done this 47 times?" "Yes, sir." "And you're under investigation because?" "Because in Yemen, I chose to save my surviving operators instead of completing a mission that would have required sacrificing them. Naval Command is deciding if that was leadership or cowardice." "What do you call it?" "The only choice I could live with." Martinez nodded slowly. "Okay, but I want body camera footage, everything recorded." "Yes, sir." "Commander, for what it's worth, choosing your people over the mission, that's not cowardice, that's leadership. Your father taught me that 33 years ago." Alexis's throat tightened. She nodded once. Then she descended into the tunnel, into the darkness, into the choice that would define everything that came after. In the tunnel, Alexis moved through darkness. The space was tight, 3 feet wide, maybe 4 feet tall. She had to crouch, duck walking forward, using her phone's flashlight to navigate. The air smelled of dust and old metal and decades of neglect. Every 10 feet she counted steps, checked her internal map against physical reality. Her heart rate was steady, 72 beats per minute, the same as when she'd sat in the bar, the same as when Bull had kicked her to the floor, the same as in Yemen watching her operators die. People thought SEALs were fearless. That was wrong. Fear was always there. It just didn't control the body, couldn't control the mission. Alexis had learned that the hard way. From instructors who'd pushed her past breaking points she didn't know she had. From her father, who'd taught her that courage wasn't absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. She heard something above. Footsteps. Voices. She was under the command center now. Through the floor, Walsh's voice came muffled but clear. "I know you're out there. I know you're planning something. I'll kill them. I swear to God, I'll kill them all." A woman's voice, trembling. "Please, just let us go." "Shut up. Everyone shut up. I need to think." Alexis's hands tightened. 12 people up there. 12 people whose families were gathering outside right now. 12 people who had no idea their survival depended on a 22-year-old SEAL commander under investigation. Except it hadn't been the wrong call. She knew that now. Had known it the moment she'd given the order in Yemen. Chen, Hayes, and Rodriguez were dead. Nothing would bring them back. But Jackson, Kim, and Williams were alive because she'd chosen extraction over completion. Her phone buzzed. Text from Martinez. "Gunnery Sergeant in position, awaiting your signal." Alexis texted back. "Ready. Execute on my mark." She found the access hatch, old maintenance panel secured with 4 bolts. She loosened them one by one, working fast but silent. The 4th bolt came free. The hatch was ready. Her phone buzzed again. Martinez. "Gunnery Sergeant breaching in 30 seconds. He won't hold. Move now." Alexis closed her eyes. One breath. Two. Heart rate settled at 72. She pushed the hatch up half an inch, peered through. Walsh stood near the east wall, rifle aimed at the door where Bull would breach. His back was to the floor. The hostages were clustered in the far corner. 12 people, zip-tied, terrified. 10 seconds. If she moved now, if Bull breached at the same moment, too many variables. But the alternative was Bull's plan, and Bull's plan was a guaranteed bloodbath. 5 seconds. Alexis pushed the hatch fully open, pulled herself up in one smooth motion. Her boots hit tile silently. Walsh was still focused on the door. 3, 2. The east door exploded inward. Bull's voice, "Go, go, go!" Walsh's rifle swung toward the Marines. His finger found the trigger. Alexis moved, not running, flowing, inevitable, unstoppable. She closed 15 feet before Walsh's peripheral vision caught movement. He started to turn. Alexis hit him from the side. Controlled collision. Her shoulder drove into his ribs. Her hand found the rifle barrel, redirected it upward. The weapon discharged twice. Rounds punched into ceiling tiles. Dust rained down. Walsh tried to wrench the rifle free. Alexis's training took over. She stepped inside his reach, delivered precise strike to his throat, just hard enough to disrupt breathing without crushing windpipe. His grip loosened. Joint lock, controlled his arm, took him to the ground. 8 seconds, start to finish. Bull burst through the door. 3 Marines behind him, weapons up, ready for firefight. They froze. The shooter was face down. Alexis knelt on his back, securing wrists with zip ties. The rifle lay 3 feet away. The hostages stared in shock. Bull lowered his weapon slowly. "What? How did you?" Alexis didn't answer. She finished securing Walsh, checked for secondary weapons, found a handgun in his waistband, cleared it, set it aside. Only then did she look up. "Situation is secure, Gunnery Sergeant. You can lower your weapons. The hostages are safe." Martinez appeared in the doorway, took in the scene. His expression shifted from tense to relieved to something approaching awe. "Commander Kane," he said carefully, "did you just—" "Neutralize the threat and secured the hostages, sir. 0 casualties. Subject restrained and ready for transport." Martinez looked at Walsh on the floor, at the rifle, at the hatch still open, at Alexis standing there calm as if she just finished routine paperwork. "How long were you in position?" "Approximately 90 seconds, sir." "And you waited until the gunnery sergeant breached because his breach created the distraction I needed." Walsh's attention was divided. That's when defensive positions are weakest. Bull found his voice. It came out strangled. "You used my team as bait." "I used your breach as tactical advantage. Same thing military operations have done for centuries. It worked. Everyone's alive. That's what matters." "You could have coordinated." "I texted Captain Martinez multiple times asking you to hold position. You breached anyway. If you'd waited like ordered, I could have taken Walsh without shots being fired. Your early breach forced me to move during a more dangerous window." The truth hung between them. Bull had forced the timeline, had escalated when he should have held, and Alexis had still made it work. EMTs pushed into the room. Alexis helped the hostages to their feet, cut their zip ties, spoke quietly to each one. "You're safe now. Medical will check you out. Your families are outside." A young trainee, couldn't have been more than 19, grabbed her hand. "Thank you. I thought we were all going to die." "You're Marines," Alexis said gently. "Marines don't die in training facilities on home soil. Not on my watch." As they led the hostages out, Bull stood in the empty command center, staring at the open hatch, staring at the route Alexis had taken, staring at evidence of competence so far beyond his experience he couldn't process it. One of his Marines, Lance Corporal Jake Davis, approached quietly. "Gunny, who the hell is she?" Bull didn't answer for a long moment. Finally, I have no idea, but I just kicked her to the floor of a bar 90 minutes before she saved 12 lives while I watched. Davis whistled low. That's going to be awkward in the debrief, Gunny. Outside, the San Diego night had turned cold. Alexis stood alone for a moment and let herself breathe. Her phone buzzed. Text from her father. Saw it on the news. Everyone safe? Everyone's safe. Good. Come home when you're done. Alexis smiled. Her mother had died 4 years ago, but her father still cooked her recipes, still set 3 places at the table, still kept the memory alive in small rituals of daily life. She texted back, "On my way." Somewhere in the machinery of the Pentagon, an investigation was grinding forward. Admirals and lawyers debating whether she'd made the right call in Yemen, whether she belonged in command. But tonight, 12 people were alive because she'd crawled through a tunnel and made the hard choice, the quiet choice, the right choice. The temporary command post smelled like stale coffee and stress sweat. They'd set it up in the facility's main conference room. Alexis sat at one end of the long table. Bull sat at the other, as far from her as the room allowed. Between them, Captain Martinez, an FBI liaison, and a Navy JAG officer with a briefcase. And at the head of the table, Admiral Kenneth Garrett, 64 years old, Vietnam veteran, the man who'd been Alexis's commanding officer, the man who'd opened the Yemen investigation. His presence meant this wasn't just a debrief. This was judgment. "Let's establish the timeline," Martinez began. At 21:47 hours, active shooter reported 12 hostages. At 21:53, Gunnery Sergeant Donovan arrived and proposed immediate breach. Bull sat straighter. "Correct, Captain. I assessed the situation using 16 years of combat experience. Aggressive action was necessary. Every minute delayed was a minute the shooter had to harm hostages." "And Commander Kane arrived when?" 21:56 hours, Alexis said quietly. 3 minutes after. "You proposed the tunnel approach." "Yes, sir." Bull scoffed. "You proposed a theory, a plan you'd never executed in this facility." "I proposed a tactical approach based on facility knowledge and 47 prior hostage rescues. The east entrance was a fatal funnel. Walsh had direct line of sight and defensive advantage. Which is why speed and aggression were essential," Bull interrupted. "Overwhelm his position before he could react." Walsh wasn't enemy military. He was a distressed civilian with a weapon. Different psychology, different tactics required. Bull slammed his hand on the table. "Your tunnel crawl could have gotten you killed. You went in alone, unarmed, no backup." "I went in with a plan, Gunnery Sergeant. You went in with noise." Special Agent Carr cleared his throat. "The body camera footage shows Commander Kane's approach was methodical and controlled. She neutralized the threat in 8 seconds with 0 casualties." "She got lucky," Bull insisted. "Could have, but didn't," Admiral Garrett said. His voice cut through the argument. "Because Commander Kane read the situation correctly and executed with precision." Garrett stood, moved to the wall monitor, pulled up a file that made Bull's face go pale. "Gunnery Sergeant, what was your team's position when shots were fired?" Bull hesitated. "We were breaching the east entrance. Without authorization from Captain Martinez, the situation was deteriorating. You ignored a direct order to hold position," Martinez interrupted. "I specifically told you to wait for my signal, because waiting was getting people killed." "No one was killed," Alexis said quietly. Bull turned on her. "You don't get to sit there calm like you're better than everyone. You went rogue." "Finish that sentence, Gunnery Sergeant." Garrett's voice dropped dangerously. "Please." Bull's mouth closed. Garrett pulled up another file. Bull's eyes widened as he read. "Let me provide context," Garrett said. "Lieutenant Commander Alexis Kane, Naval Academy graduate, top of class, SEAL qualification, age 19. Assigned to Team 7, age 20. Promoted to Lieutenant Commander, age 22, after 47 successful operations with 0 friendly casualties. Silence. 47? Bull's voice strangled. That wasn't a lie? No, Gunnery Sergeant. Garrett pulled up more documents, mission reports, commendations. Commander Kane has conducted hostage rescues in 14 countries, advanced CQB training, tactical psychology, crisis negotiation. She speaks 4 languages, expert marksman with 7 weapon systems. Garrett paused. Her heart rate under fire averages 78 beats per minute. That's not possible, Bull whispered. It is. Garrett pulled up biometric data. During tonight's operation, her heart rate never exceeded 92. During the takedown, 75. Martinez whistled low. Garrett continued. 3 weeks ago, Yemen. Her team encountered an ambush. Faulty intelligence. 3 operators killed, Corporals Chen, Hayes, Rodriguez. Commander Kane ordered abort and extraction, saved 3 survivors. Naval Command investigated whether she hesitated because of casualties. Bull looked confused. Why investigate saving your people? Because the mission objective was lost. Some questioned if she was too emotional. Garrett's eyes found Alexis's. I've spent 3 weeks reviewing that operation, interviewed survivors, analyzed the tactical situation, and I've reached a conclusion. He paused. Commander Kane made the only correct decision. Pushing forward would have resulted in total loss with no guarantee of success. She saved 3 lives at the cost of 1 intelligence opportunity. That is leadership, not weakness. Bull stared at Alexis, really seeing her. You're a SEAL commander, an actual SEAL commander. Yes, and I, Bull's voice cracked. At the bar, I called you a diversity hire. I kicked your chair. I put you on the floor. Yes. Why didn't you fight back? Alexis met his eyes. Because I'm under investigation. Fighting back would have been used as evidence of poor judgment. Sometimes the hard call is walking away from a fight you could win. Bull put his head in his hands. Oh, God. You did, Garrett confirmed. Which brings us to the formal complaint. Alexis's head snapped up. Sir, I'm not filing. I know, but others are. Garrett pulled out another file. Peter Whitman, the bartender, filed a complaint 30 minutes ago. Security footage included. Additionally, 3 Marine Lance Corporals provided statements confirming assault. Bull looked sick. Admiral, there's no excuse. You were a bully, Garrett said flatly. You saw a young woman alone, assumed she was weak, used your size and rank to intimidate her. When intimidation didn't work, you escalated to violence. Yes, sir, that's exactly what I did. Why? Bull was silent. Then, because she didn't react the way people react to me. People laugh at my stories, defer to my experience. She just sat there, calm. It made me angry. So you kicked her. So I kicked her. Bull looked at Alexis. I'm sorry. Alexis nodded once. Accepted. That's not how this works, Garrett said. You're being reassigned to Quantico as training instructor. 18 months. No deployments. Mandatory bias training. And if I ever hear of you putting hands on another service member, you'll face court-martial. Clear? Crystal clear, Admiral. The door opened. A man stood there. 61 years old, gray hair and a high and tight, eyes that tracked movement like a predator. Alexis stood. Dad? Master Chief Daniel Kane, retired, stepped in. His gaze swept the officers, paused on Bull, settled on Garrett. Admiral, Daniel said. Been a long time, Garrett smiled. Master Chief, 33 years since the court-martial. You were the JAG officer who cleared my name. And now I'm clearing your daughters. Garrett gestured to a chair. Captain Martinez called you? He did. Daniel moved to stand beside Alexis, put a hand on her shoulder. Told me what happened, both at the bar and here. Bull had gone very still. Master Chief Kane, from Gulf War, the extraction in '91. Daniel turned to look at him. You know about that? Every Marine knows that story, sir. You disobeyed orders to save your team, faced court-martial, got cleared because you made the right call. Bull's voice was thick. I've told that story 100 times. Did you learn anything from it? Daniel asked quietly. Bull's face crumbled. Not enough, sir. Not nearly enough. Daniel studied him. You know the difference between you and the officers who investigated me? They were so sure they were right they couldn't see any other possibility. At least you're capable of recognizing when you're wrong. That's more than some people manage. Bull nodded. Thank you, sir. Grace isn't about deserving, Daniel said. It's about choosing to be better than the worst thing you've done. Alexis spoke. Gunnery Sergeant, when you kicked my chair, my first instinct was to put you on the floor. But proving I was tougher wouldn't have changed your mind about women in combat. It would have confirmed your belief that we're too aggressive, too emotional. So I walked away. And I did my job. Saving 12 lives mattered more than my ego. You proved yourself through competence, Bull said quietly. I shouldn't have had to prove anything. My record should speak for itself. But until the culture changes, women like me will always have to prove we belong, over and over. I can help change that culture. At Quantico, teaching recruits. Can you? It's easy to say you've learned. Harder to unlearn 16 years of assumptions. I know, but I'm going to try, I swear. Then tell true stories, not the ones that make you look good, the ones that teach real lessons. Bull's face went red. I wasn't in Fallujah in 2006. I know, I checked your record. Camp Pendleton teaching rifle qualifications. I've been lying about that for 8 years. Then stop. You've got 16 years of real service. Tell the truth. Bull extended his hand. Alexis shook it. Thank you, Commander, for tonight, for this conversation, for not destroying me when you had every reason to. He left, his shoulders slumped, his swagger gone. Daniel watched him go. Think he'll change? Some people do, when the evidence is overwhelming. Garrett cleared his throat. Commander Kane, the Yemen investigation is closed. You're cleared for active duty. Alexis's breath caught. Sir? Garrett pulled up another document. I received letters from the families of your fallen operators. He read from the screen. Captain Elena Hayes, widow of Corporal Michael Hayes. My husband's last letter mentioned Commander Kane. He said she was the best commander he'd ever served under. He said if anything happened, it would be bad luck or bad intel, never bad leadership. Alexis's eyes burned. Garrett continued. Mrs. Hayes writes, Commander Kane's decision destroyed her, but it was the right one. If she'd pushed forward, I wouldn't be burying one husband. I'd be reading about 6 coffins. The other families wrote similar letters. They don't blame you, Commander. They thank you. Daniel's hand tightened on Alexis's shoulder. Garrett continued, I'm offering you 2 assignments. First, SEAL Team 7 Assistant Commander, operational duty. Second, Fort Bragg instructor, teaching position, 2-year rotation. She should take 7, Bull said suddenly from the doorway. Everyone turned. He'd stopped, listening. Commander, you're too talented to waste on teaching. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Bull, how many operators do you think I trained over 20 years? Bull blinked. Maybe a couple hundred? 312. They went on to lead teams, run operations, make hard calls. Every life they saved, every operator they brought home, every good decision they made based on what I taught them, that's my legacy. That's not waste, that's multiplication. He looked at Alexis. The question isn't which assignment is more important. The question is where you can do the most good. Martinez spoke up. For the record, I'm recommending Commander Kane for commendation. Exceptional performance, 0 casualties, textbook hostage rescue. Noted, Garrett said. The meeting adjourned. People filed out. Bull approached Alexis and Daniel one more time. Commander, Master Chief, I need you both to understand what I did was inexcusable. I saw a woman alone and made assumptions. Cruel, wrong assumptions. And I acted on them. His voice broke. In a way that makes me ashamed to wear this uniform. Daniel studied him. You know what the difference is between you and the officers who investigated me in '91? They were so sure they were right, they couldn't see any other possibility. You made assumptions tonight, bad ones, but at least you're capable of recognizing when you're wrong. Bull nodded. Thank you, sir. That's more grace than I deserve. Alexis spoke. Gunnery Sergeant, you can help change the culture. At Quantico, teaching recruits, teach them to value competence over ego. Bull straightened. I will, I swear. They walked out into the parking lot. The night was cold. You okay? Daniel asked. 3 weeks ago, Yemen. Tonight saved 12 people. And somehow that's supposed to balance out. She looked at her father. Does it? Daniel was quiet then. August 12th, 1991. Iraq. Bad intel put my team in impossible position. I chose my team over mission. Extracted all 6. Our CO, Lieutenant Commander Parks, went forward alone. Got captured. Tortured for 3 days. I didn't know that. Parks never spoke to me again. Testified at my court-martial, I was a coward. Daniel's voice was steady, but she heard the old pain. For 10 years I questioned myself, but Parks lived until 2019. Had a wife, 3 kids, 8 grandchildren. I went to his funeral. His son said Parks spent 30 years angry about it, but he also said Parks had 3 decades he wouldn't have had if I'd insisted we all die together. Did that help? No, but it helped me understand the weight doesn't go away. You just learn to carry it. Chen, Hayes, Rodriguez, they're not your failure. They're war. And the 3 you saved will have lives because you made the hard call. The families wrote letters supporting me. They did more. They called me, all 3. Said they were grateful you commanded that mission. That doesn't bring them back. No, but it means you honored them by saving who you could. At the house, the kitchen smelled like garlic and cumin in memories. They ate in silence. Fort Bragg, Daniel said eventually, that's the right choice. You think so? I know so. You've proven you can operate, but you haven't proven you can teach the next generation to be better. That's the challenge. Her phone rang. Master Chief Reeves. Kane saw the news. 12 hostages saved, 0 casualties. The footage is viral. I did my job. You did more. Yemen investigation is officially closed. You're cleared. Vindicated. Thank you. Now about Fort Bragg. That's the right move. Show the next generation what you showed tonight. They hung up. Dad, she said, when you were investigated in '91, were you scared? Terrified. Thought my career was over. But then Garrett told me something. Daniel's voice was quiet. He said, Master Chief, the men who never face court-martial are the men who never make hard choices. You did something difficult. The question isn't whether you made the perfect choice. The question is whether you made the right one. And you did. Alexis absorbed that. I made the right choice in Yemen. You did. And tonight, you did. And about Fort Bragg, Daniel smiled. You are. She went to her old room, lay down on the bed too small, and for the first time in 3 weeks, she slept without dreaming of Yemen. The media storm hit at dawn. 17 missed calls, 43 texts. CNN had run the footage on loop. Her emerging from the floor, the 8-second takedown. The headline, SEAL Wonder Girl or Reckless Cowboy. Anonymous Pentagon sources questioning her judgment. Retired analysts debating whether her youth made her inexperienced. Opinion pieces asking if the Navy promoted women too fast. Daniel was in the kitchen. They're tearing you apart. They're scared of me. 22, female, more competent than men twice my age. That threatens everything they built. Her phone rang. Admiral Garrett. Commander, press conference in 6 hours. Pentagon wants you in Washington. I'm not doing it, sir. Silence. Say that again. I'm not defending my record to people who've never made a tactical decision. I saved 12 lives. That's my statement. Commander, this isn't a request. To what? Apologize for doing my job? Explain how a woman could lead SEALs? I won't. Sir, I've spent my career proving I belong. I'm done proving myself. Long silence. The attention won't go away. I know, but it'll move on. I'm accepting Fort Bragg, teaching operators what I've learned. That's more important than my public image. Your father would have made the same choice. He did. 91, he told me. Garrett was quiet. I was the JAG officer at his court-martial. I voted to clear him. Pause. Commander, I can't stop Pentagon from releasing their statement, but I can make sure it's accurate. Thank you, sir. Before she could say more, her phone rang. Unknown number. Commander Kane? Female voice, older, emotional. This is Captain Elena Hayes, widow of Corporal Michael Hayes. Alexis's breath stopped. Ma'am, I wanted to call personally. I've been watching the news, reading articles questioning you, and I need you to know something. Hayes's voice strengthened. My husband's last letter talked about you. Said you were the best commander he'd ever served under. Said you made decisions based on keeping the team alive, not ego. Said if anything happened, it would be bad luck or bad intel, never bad leadership. Alexis's eyes burned. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize, not to me, not to anyone. Hayes's voice was firm. The day after Michael died, my first thought was, thank God it was Commander Kane. Because I knew if Michael died, it meant the situation was impossible. It meant you'd tried everything. It meant the 3 who survived only survived because you made the hard call. Your letter to Admiral Garrett was truth. Michael's death destroyed me, but knowing you brought Jackson, Kim, Williams home helps. Because it means my husband's death wasn't wasted. Someone had courage to say, no more, when others would have sacrificed everyone. Alexis couldn't speak. Tears ran silently. I'm calling because whatever the media says, whatever Pentagon says, you made the right call. If they push you out over it, the SEALs don't deserve you. Hayes paused. Teach, Commander. Teach the next generation what Michael learned from you. Make his death count by making sure future operators come home. I will, I promise. After Hayes hung up, Alexis sat in her kitchen and cried. Not sad tears, relief, gratitude. The tears of someone carrying impossible weight who finally had permission to set some down. Daniel pulled her into his arms, let her cry until there were no tears left. 2 weeks later, Alexis drove to Fort Bragg. The Special Warfare Center was massive, thousands of acres, training ground for the military's most elite, Army Special Forces, Rangers, the best of the best. And now Alexis Kane was here to teach them. Her first class was Advanced Tactical Decision-Making Under Pressure. 45 students, 42 male, 3 female, ages 25 to 42, all looking at their 22-year-old instructor with skepticism. Alexis didn't start with credentials. Just put a scenario on screen. Iraq, 1991, 6-person SEAL team, bad intelligence, enemy battalion instead of small outpost, 3 operators down in first contact, your team leader. 2 choices, push forward to complete mission or abort and extract survivors. 10 seconds. What do? The room erupted. Half said, push forward, complete mission, honor the fallen. Half said, extract, save who you can. Alexis let them argue for 5 minutes, heated, passionate. Then she stopped them. I'll tell you what happened. My father, Master Chief Daniel Kane, chose extraction, saved 6 men, was court-martialed. Silence. Yemen, 3 weeks ago. Same scenario. 3 dead, Chen, Hayes, Rodriguez. 3 alive, Jackson, Kim, Williams. I chose extraction, aborted mission. Naval Command investigated if I was a coward. She pulled up archive footage. Younger Admiral Garrett, 1991, Navy JAG officer, reading verdict. The board finds Master Chief Kane made correct tactical decision. Mission objective was secondary to operator survival. His choice was not cowardice, but leadership. Next slide. Recent document. Closure of Alexis's investigation. Same language. My investigation closed 2 weeks ago. Cleared. Not because I was right. There's no right answer to impossible choice. Cleared because I made decision based on preserving lives over mission. Hand up. Captain Eric Morrison, 38, Army Ranger, 15 years service. Alexis had seen his expression entering, skepticism mixed with disdain. But mission intel was lost. You didn't get objective. How justify that? I don't justify it, I accept it. 3 families have sons, brothers, fathers because I chose people over mission. 3 other families buried loved ones because I couldn't save them. Both true. Both matter. I live with both. Another hand, female student. Lieutenant Sarah Chen, 26, Army officer. Media said Pentagon sources question your competence. Did gender play a role? Alexis met her eyes. Yes, absolutely. If I were 22-year-old male SEAL commander who made same call, questions would be different. Still questioned, but different. Gender adds scrutiny male operators don't face. That's reality. That's what you'll face pursuing command. How handle it? By being so competent they can't dismiss you. By making decisions based on tactics, not managing perception. By understanding some people will never accept you regardless of results, and refusing to let that stop you. Class continued. Alexis presented scenarios, let students debate, then revealed what happened in her 47 operations. After class, Morrison approached. Commander, I'll be honest, when I saw a 22-year-old woman teaching, I thought diversity politics. I was wrong. That was most valuable tactical training I've had in 5 years. Thank you, Captain. More students approached. Questions, challenges, debates. Alexis spent 2 hours after class doing what her father did, teaching operators to think, not just act. 6 months passed. Alexis taught class after class, advanced tactical decision-making, close quarters battle, hostage rescue, crisis management. Each brought new students, new opportunities to pass on lessons. One day, Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Bull Crawford enrolled. He sat back row, didn't raise hand, just listened, took notes, absorbed. After class, he approached her desk. Commander, wanted you to know, been at Quantico 6 months, training 180 recruits. How's it going? Hard, harder than thought, unlearning 16 years assumptions. Bull's voice was different, quieter, more considered. Every recruit hears about you. Tunnel rescue, choosing teaching over Team 7, quiet competence over loud arrogance. How respond? Half don't believe at first. Young female SEAL teaching tactics has to be politics. But then I show footage, your record. Tell them what you taught me, that my assumptions almost got people killed, that competence doesn't care about opinions, that best operator might not be who I expect. Did it change them? Some, maybe half. But that's half going into fleet with different assumptions. Half who won't dismiss female operators. Half who might listen when quiet voice offers better option. Bull met her eyes. That's because of you. Because you didn't just beat me, you taught me, gave path to redemption. After he left, Alexis sat thinking about ripples. How one stone created waves traveling farther than you could see. How teaching one operator created hundreds of better decisions across years. Text came in. Staff Sergeant Jake Davis. Lance Corporal from that night had moved up, gotten Marine Raider selection, now training at Fort Bragg under instructors Alexis taught. Commander Kane, applying to be Fort Bragg instructor, want to teach what you taught me. My father was Army Ranger, served under Master Chief Kane in 91 training, came home safe from 3 deployments because of what your father taught. Want to pass that on. Alexis called Reeves. Staying at Fort Bragg, requesting extension, 2 years instead of 6 months. Reeves was quiet. Serious? Serious. Can do more good here than field right now. Navy's going to fight this, want you back in operations. Then they'll prove it with someone else. I'm not PR tool. I'm operator who happens to be teaching, and I'm good at teaching. Garrett called next day. Commander, hear you want to extend teaching. Yes, sir. Also hear 7 offered you second in command and you turned it down. Yes, sir. Explain. Sir, spent 5 years proving I can operate, completed 47 missions, made hard calls, earned my trident, but haven't proven I can teach next generation to be better. That's challenge I want. Navy needs operational commanders, not just teachers. Navy needs both, sir. Every operator I train goes back to units with lessons about quiet competence, tactical humility, making decisions based on saving lives. That affects hundreds of operations I'll never see. That's force multiplier beyond what I could achieve in one team. Garrett's silent. Then, your father said exact same thing in 96 when I tried to pull him back to Team 3. He chose teaching. Best decision he ever made. Hundreds alive today because Daniel Kane taught their commanders smart tactical decisions. Want to do same thing, sir. Want to make sure future commanders don't have to learn lessons I learned in Yemen. Can't prevent bad intel, but can teach them how to make impossible choices. Approved, 2-year extension. But Commander, in 2 years you're coming back to operations. Yes, sir, I'll be ready. 2 years later, Alexis stood before her final Fort Bragg class. Classroom packed, standing room only. Students from 2 years came to hear last lecture. This is my last lecture, she said. In 2 weeks, returning to SEAL Team 7 as executive officer. Going back to operations. But before I go, want to tell you what I learned. She pulled up slideshow. Images moved across screen. Anchor's rest bar. Tunnel entrance. Body camera footage of 8-second takedown. Memorial photos of Chen, Hayes, Rodriguez. Classroom full of students. When I started teaching, thought my job was pass down tactical knowledge. Did that. But what I learned is teaching isn't about knowledge transfer. It's about permission. Next slide. Photo of her father from 1991. Young, strong, standing with SEAL team in Iraqi desert. 33 years ago, my father made choice. Save team or complete mission. Chose team. Was court-martialed, but cleared because he made right call. Hard call. Call that valued lives over objectives. Next slide. Father at Naval Special Warfare Center, teaching. He spent 20 years teaching after. Trained 312 operators. Everyone learned right call isn't always loud one. That bringing people home matters more than any mission. Next slide. Alexis in Yemen. Chen, Hayes, Rodriguez in background, alive, smiling. 3 weeks before I came here, made same choice father made. 3 operators died, 3 survived. Chose extraction over mission. Was investigated, but cleared for same reason, because I valued lives over objectives. Final slide. This classroom, hundreds of faces. What I'm giving you today is permission. Permission to be quiet professionals in loud world. Permission to value tactics over performance. Permission to make hard call even when it costs you. Permission to teach next generation instead of hoarding knowledge. Permission to be competent without apology. She closed laptop. Class dismissed. Go save lives. Teach others to save lives. Make me proud. Room erupted in applause. Standing ovation. 2 years of students showing respect because she'd earned it. After everyone left, her father waited outside. Ready to go back to 7? Daniel asked. Ready to use what I learned. Ready to lead operators who value quiet competence because I taught their instructors to value it. Daniel pulled her into hug. That's my girl. Changed culture. Made system better. Now go operate within system you improved. 2 days later, Alexis returned to SEAL Team 7. Commander James Wilson met her at compound. Welcome back, Kane. Heard good things about teaching. Thank you, sir. Ready for operations? Yes, sir. Good. Got one starting 48 hours. Yemen. Same area where you lost operators 2 years ago. Intel indicates target we missed still active. Want to finish what you started? Alexis's heart rate stayed at 72. Steady, calm, ready. Yes, sir. Let's bring everyone home this time. That's plan. Brief team tomorrow. Briefing room held 22 operators. Some served with her before, others new, all heard stories. Listen up, Alexis said, voice quiet but carried. Going back to Yemen, same area where we lost Chen, Hayes, Rodriguez 2 years ago. Same mission they died trying to complete, but doing it differently this time. She pulled up tactical maps, satellite imagery, intel reports. Planning for every contingency, building redundancy into every phase, triple-checking intel, and operating under one rule: we all come home. Mission matters, but people matter more. Staff Sergeant Jake Davis raised hand. He'd made Marine Raider, now assigned liaison, to 7. Commander, what if mission and people are mutually exclusive? Alexis met his eyes. Then we choose people. Every time. Because mission is temporary. But operators in this room, they're permanent. Their families, permanent. Lessons we learn, permanent. Mission ends. People endure. Operation launched 48 hours later. Helicopter insertion into same desert that took Chen, Hayes, Rodriguez. But this time intel was good. Triple verified. Solid. They hit target at 0300. Fast, precise, professional. High-value target secured without shot fired. But as they prepared extraction, complication arose. Commander, Davis's voice came over radio. We've got issue. Secondary building we didn't see on SAT imagery. Movement inside. Could be additional hostiles or civilians. Intel didn't mention it. Alexis's heart rate ticked up slightly. 80 beats per minute. This was the moment. The choice. Push through extraction and leave unknown variables, or investigate and risk timeline. 2 years ago, she would have pushed through. Prioritized getting her team out over unknown factors. But 2 years of teaching had changed her. She'd taught 847 students that right call wasn't always obvious one. That patience beat aggression. That taking extra minute to verify saved lives in the long run. Hold extraction, she said. 2-person team. Investigate secondary building. Rules of engagement. Verify occupants. Assess threat level. If civilians, we extract them with us. If hostiles, we neutralize. Either way, we clear it before we leave. No unknown variables behind us. Copy that, Commander. Davis and another operator approached the secondary building. 30 seconds felt like 30 minutes. Then Davis's voice. Commander, we've got 2 civilians, local contract workers. They were hiding from the target's security. They're terrified, but unharmed. Bring them to primary extraction point. We take them with us. That's going to complicate timeline. I know, but we're not leaving civilians in a hot zone because it's inconvenient. Adapt and execute. They extracted with the target and 2 additional civilians. Timeline stretched by 4 minutes. But everyone came home. Target secured. Civilians safe. 0 casualties. On flight back, Wilson approached Alexis. Hell of job, Kane. Clean operation. But that call on the secondary building, that added risk. We could have extracted clean, left the civilians for follow-up team. Could have, sir. But 2 years ago, I left Yemen with 3 dead because I didn't take extra time to verify intel. Tonight, I took extra 4 minutes to verify what we were leaving behind. Those civilians are alive because we didn't rush. Wilson studied her. You know what difference is between you 2 years ago and you now? What's that, sir? 2 years ago, you were operator with natural talent. Tonight you were operator with teaching experience. You didn't just execute mission, you taught it. Made sure we understood not just what to do, but why. That extra 4 minutes, that's the difference between good commanders and great ones. You taught us patience beats speed. That lesson just saved 2 lives. 3 months later, package arrived. Custom challenge coin. On one side, Seal Trident. Other, inscription. Lieutenant Commander Alexis Kane, teacher, leader, quiet professional. From operators whose lives you'll save by teaching their commanders to be better, SEAL Team 7. Underneath was letter signed by 47 operators. Commander Kane, we heard you chose teaching over returning to 7. We understand. We've seen how you lead. Now others will too. Teach them what you taught us. That volume doesn't equal valor. That quiet competence saves lives. That bringing people home matters more than completing every mission. You saved our lives in operations. Now save lives of operators we'll never meet by teaching their leaders what we learned from you. Alexis placed coin next to photo of Chen, Hayes, Rodriguez. Next to SEAL Trident. Next to father's old instructor manual from 1996. Phone rang. Pete Whitman. Commander Kane, Pete Whitman. Listen, been getting calls. Reporters wanting to know about that night. I've been telling them to pound sand. Thank you, Pete. Also, something else. Bull came by last week. Apologized. Told me about Quantico, recruits he's teaching. Said you changed his life. Asked if ban was permanent. What did you tell him? Told him come back in 6 months, see if change stuck. But between you and me, I think it will. Man's different, quieter, more thoughtful. Like he actually learned something. Some people do learn when lessons hard enough. After Pete hung up, Alexis sat thinking about legacy. Father's 312 students. Her own 847 from Fort Bragg. Bull's 180 recruits. Davis training to be instructor. All the ripples spreading from choices made in darkness, in tunnels, in impossible moments. Phone buzzed. Text from Lieutenant Sarah Chen. Commander Kane just made first command decision under fire. Had to choose between mission objective and operator safety. Chose operators. Mission failed, but everyone came home. My CO questioned me. I told him what you taught. Mission is temporary, people permanent. He backed off. Thank you for giving me permission to make right call. Alexis replied, you didn't need my permission. You had courage all along. But I'm glad I could show you the way. Sunday dinner at father's house. Daniel grilled steaks. They ate on back patio, watching San Diego sunset. Team 7 going well? Daniel asked. Better than expected. Teaching helped. I approach everything differently. Not just planning missions, but teaching missions. Making sure everyone understands why, not just what. That's what I tried to tell you 2 years ago. Teaching makes you better at operating. Operating makes you better at teaching. They're same track viewed from different angles. I get it now. Alexis sipped beer. Dad, do you ever regret choosing teaching over operations? Daniel was quiet. Sometimes. When I hear about mission, I could have run. But then I get call from one of my students, telling me they made hard call and it saved lives. And I realize I'm still operating, just through 312 proxies instead of one team. 847 for me now. That's my girl. Multiplying impact instead of chasing glory. Daniel raised beer. To quiet professionals who create heroes instead of being them. They clinked bottles, watched sun disappear. Alexis's phone buzzed. Admiral Garrett. Commander Kane, situation developing. Somalia. Hostage rescue. Needs someone with your specific skill set. I'm in, sir. When deploy? 48 hours. And Kane? This one's difficult. Multiple hostages, heavily fortified compound, limited intel. Operation that ends careers if goes wrong. Or saves lives if goes right. That's why I'm calling you. Because I know you'll make right call. Not loud one, right one. Alexis looked at father. He was smiling, proud, understanding. I'll be ready, sir. Daniel walked her to truck. Lexi, remember what I told you about weight of command never leaving. I remember. Good, because it doesn't. But you know how to carry it now. You know saving the ones you can is enough. That making hard call is what matters. That quiet competence beats loud arrogance every time. I know, Dad. Then go do what you do best. Bring everyone home. 3 days later, Alexis was on helicopter flying low over Somali coastline. 20 operators behind her, Davis among them. Lieutenant Chen on overwatch. Captain Morrison handling tactical coordination from base. Students she'd taught. Operators who'd learned from her. Whole generation brought together by simple lesson that people mattered more than missions. Compound appeared in distance, heavily fortified, multiple guards, 20 hostages confirmed inside. 2 minutes, pilot called. Alexis checked weapon. Heart rate was 72. Same as always. Same as when Bull kicked her chair. Same as crawling through tunnel. Same as making call in Yemen. Listen up, she said over team radio. Mission is rescue and extract. But if we have to choose between hostages and perfect execution, we choose hostages. If we choose between mission completion and bringing everyone home, we bring everyone home. Clear? 20 voices. Clear, Commander. Then let's go to work. Quiet and professional. The way we were trained. Helicopter descended. Mission began. The insertion was clean. They hit the compound from 2 angles, breaching simultaneously. Alexis led the primary team, while Davis commanded the secondary. The guards were neutralized with precision. No shots fired from the SEAL team until absolutely necessary. When they did fire, it was controlled, precise, deadly when needed, restrained when possible. They found the hostages in a basement room. 12 aid workers from various international organizations. Terrified but unharmed. Alexis moved through them quickly, cutting zip ties, checking for injuries, speaking calmly. You're safe now. We're American military. We're taking you home. But as they prepared to extract, Davis's voice came over radio. Commander, we've got complication. Guard we neutralized was carrying detonator. I've got eyes on what looks like IED rig to the exit route. We can't go out the way we came in. Alexis's heart rate ticked up to 80. This was it again, the choice. Risk the primary extraction route and hope the IED wasn't live, or find alternative route and burn precious minutes. She thought about Yemen, about pushing forward versus extraction, about Chen, Hayes, Rodriguez dying because she didn't have complete information. She thought about the secondary building in Yemen 2 weeks ago. Taking 4 extra minutes to verify, saving 2 civilians because she chose patience over speed. Hold position, she said. Morrison, you hearing this? Copy, Commander. Analyzing compound structure now. Give me 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds felt eternal. The hostages were looking at her, trusting her. 12 more lives in her hands. Commander, Morrison's voice came through. I've got alternate extraction route. Northwest corner, maintenance access. Should be clear of explosives, but it'll add 6 minutes to your timeline. 6 minutes is 6 minutes alive, Alexis said. We take the alternate route. Everyone moves together. No one left behind. Davis, rig that IED with a marker. EOD will clear it after we're gone. Copy that. They moved through the compound using Morrison's alternate route. It was tight, slower. One of the hostages was injured, slowing them further. But they adapted. They carried when needed. They waited when necessary. They got everyone out. Helicopter extraction was clean. No casualties. 12 hostages rescued. All operators home safe. On the flight back, Davis sat next to Alexis. That call on the alternate route added 6 minutes of exposure time. We got lucky no one spotted us. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, Alexis said. We prepared for complications. When complication arose, we had options. That's not luck, that's training. You learn that teaching at Fort Bragg? I learned that from watching my father teach for 20 years, and I reinforced it by teaching 847 students that patience saves more lives than speed. Davis was quiet for a moment. You know, 2 years ago, I was Lance Corporal at that bar, watched Bull kick you down, watched you walk away, didn't understand why you didn't fight back. And now? Now I'm training to be Fort Bragg instructor because I want to teach what you taught me. That the hard call isn't always the loud one. That walking away from a fight you could win takes more courage than throwing a punch. That bringing everyone home matters more than looking tough. Alexis smiled. Then you learned the lesson. Back at base, Admiral Garrett was waiting. Commander Kane, hell of an operation. 12 hostages rescued, 0 casualties, and you adapted to a significant complication without losing anyone. That's textbook crisis management. Thank you, sir. I've been reviewing your teaching evaluations from Fort Bragg. Your courses are the highest rated in the facility. Your students are requesting you specifically, and the operators you've trained are showing marked improvement in tactical decision-making. Garrett paused. I want to offer you a permanent position, split duty, 6 months operational with Team 7, 6 months teaching at Fort Bragg. You'd be the first SEAL commander to hold dual assignment. You'd be creating a new model for how we develop and maintain tactical excellence. Alexis looked at him. Sir, that's recognizing that you're more valuable to the Navy doing both missions than choosing just one. Your father was right. Teaching multiplies impact. But we also need operators like you in the field, making the calls, showing the next generation it can be done. Garrett smiled. What do you say? Alexis thought about Yemen, about the tunnel, about Fort Bragg, about Somalia, about 847 students in 47 operations and 3 operators lost and countless lives saved. I say yes, sir, on one condition. Name it. I want Gunnery Sergeant Crawford approved as guest lecturer. He's teaching recruits at Quantico. He's learned, he's changed, and his voice, telling his story of transformation, will reach students mine can't. Sometimes people need to hear from someone who got it wrong before they'll listen to someone who gets it right. Garrett considered. Approved. I'll arrange it. 6 months later, Alexis stood in a Fort Bragg classroom. Next to her, Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Bull Crawford. In front of them, 100 students from all branches of service. My name is Lieutenant Commander Alexis Kane, she said. 2 years ago, Gunnery Sergeant Crawford assaulted me in a bar, knocked me down, called me names I won't repeat. He did this because he made assumptions about who I was based on my age and gender. The room was silent. That same night, I saved 12 hostages from an active shooter situation. Gunnery Sergeant Crawford and his Marines were there. They watched me do it, and when it was over, when he learned who I was, what I'd done, he had a choice. He could double down on his assumptions, or he could learn. He chose to learn. She looked at Bull. Gunnery Sergeant, tell them what you learned. Bull stepped forward. 2 years had changed him. The swagger was gone. The volume was gone. What remained was something quieter, something real. I learned that I was wrong about everything, Bull said. I learned that 16 years of combat experience meant nothing if I couldn't recognize competence when it was standing in front of me. I learned that I'd built my entire identity on being the loudest, most aggressive person in every room. And I learned that loud isn't the same as right. He paused. For the past 2 years, I've been teaching recruits at Quantico. Every one of them hears Commander Kane's story. Not because it makes me look good, it doesn't. It makes me look like the bully I was. But they need to hear it, because every one of them is going to serve alongside operators who don't fit their expectations. And when that happens, they have a choice. Reject competence because it doesn't match their prejudice, or recognize it and become better for it. Bull looked at the students. I'm standing here today because Commander Kane gave me grace I didn't deserve. She could have destroyed my career. Instead, she taught me how to be better. That's what quiet competence looks like. That's what real leadership looks like. And that's what I'm asking you to take from this class. Be so good they can't ignore you. Be so competent they can't dismiss you. And when you get it wrong, have the courage to learn. The class was silent for a moment. Then one hand went up. Then another. Then another. For the next 2 hours, Alexis and Bull taught together. She provided the tactical expertise. He provided the testimony of transformation. Together, they showed a new generation that excellence came in unexpected forms, that assumptions were liabilities, and that the best operators were the ones who never stopped learning. After class, Bull approached Alexis. Thank you, he said, for this, for everything, for not giving up on me when you had every reason to. I didn't do it for you, Alexis said. I did it for the 100,000 operators who'll serve over the next 20 years. If even 10% of them learn from your story, that's 10,000 operators who'll be better at their jobs, who'll make better decisions, who'll save more lives. That's worth more than any personal grudge. Bull nodded. Your father would be proud. He is. He told me last night. He also said to tell you that redemption isn't a destination. It's a direction. Keep walking. That evening, Alexis drove to her father's house, found him on the back patio, beer in hand, watching the sunset. How'd it go today? Daniel asked. Better than expected. Bull was honest, vulnerable. The students responded to it. Good. Daniel took a sip. You know what I realized today? What's that? When I started teaching 30 years ago, I thought my job was to create the best operators in the world. But I was wrong. My job was to create operators who would create even better operators. And watching you now, teaching alongside Bull, showing that next generation what growth looks like, that's when I realized the ripple never stops. What do you mean? I taught 312 operators. You've taught 847. The operators you taught will teach thousands more. And somewhere, decades from now, there'll be an operator who makes the right call in an impossible situation. And they'll make that call because their commander taught them. And their commander learned from someone you taught. And you learned from me. And I learned from the operators who came before me. Daniel's eyes were wet. That's immortality, Lexi. Not in being remembered, in the lessons that echo forward forever. Alexis sat next to her father. They watched the sunset together in comfortable silence. Her phone buzzed. Text from Staff Sergeant Davis. Commander, just got orders. Fort Bragg instructor position confirmed. Start in 3 months. Going to teach advanced tactical decision-making. Using your curriculum. Want to make sure I do it justice. Alexis replied, You will, because you learned the lessons the hard way. Same as me, same as my father, same as everyone who's worth teaching. Pass it forward. That's all any of us can do. She pocketed her phone, looked at her father. Dad, if you could go back to 1991, to that moment in Iraq when you had to choose between mission and team, would you make the same choice? Daniel didn't hesitate. Every time, because I can live with questioning myself. I can't live with losing all 6 men for an objective that might not have mattered. Yemen still haunts me. It should. Chen, Hayes, and Rodriguez deserve to haunt you. They deserve to be remembered. They deserve to matter. The day you stop thinking about them is the day you shouldn't be in command anymore. Daniel looked at her. But don't let the ghost stop you from saving the living. That's the balance. Honor the fallen by protecting those who remain. 3 years later, Lieutenant Commander Alexis Kane stood at a podium in Washington, D.C. The Navy Cross was being pinned to her uniform, not for the tunnel rescue, not for Somalia, for cumulative excellence in combat operations and training leadership. In the audience, Daniel Kane, Pete Whitman, Captain Martinez, Master Chief Reeves, and in the back row, trying to be invisible, Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Crawford. After the ceremony, they gathered at a restaurant. Stories were told. Laughter was shared. Ghosts were remembered. Bull approached Alexis one last time. "I just want you to know," he said. "In 3 years at Quantico, I've trained 470 recruits. Every one of them knows your name. Every one of them knows what quiet competence means. Every one of them learned that assumptions kill, and every one of them is better for it." "How many of them are women?" Alexis asked. 37. "And you know what? Not one of them has faced the kind of treatment I gave you. Because I taught their male counterparts better. I taught them what you taught me, that respect is earned by competence, not demanded by demographics." "Then you did the work," Alexis said. "That's all anyone can ask." That night, back in San Diego, Alexis stood outside the Anchor's Rest, the same bar where it had all started 3 years ago. Pete saw her through the window, came outside. "You gonna come in?" he asked. "First beer's still on the house." "Maybe another time. I just wanted to stand here for a minute. Remember where it started." Pete nodded. That night changed a lot of things. Changed Bull. Changed how that story ends. Changed how a lot of young Marines think about women in uniform. "It changed me too," Alexis said. "I thought I knew what strength was. Turns out, strength isn't just about what you can do. It's about what you choose not to do. Walking away from that fight took more courage than winning it would have." "Your old man taught you that." "He did, and now I'm teaching it to others. That's how it works." Pete smiled. "Daniel would be proud." "Hell, Daniel is proud. He told me last week you're the best thing he ever did." "He said that?" "He says it every time I see him." Pete looked at her. "You know what the best part is? In 56 years, I've met a lot of warriors. Loud ones, quiet ones, good ones, bad ones. But you're the kind of warrior who makes other people better just by existing. That's rare. That's special. That's worth more than all the medals in the world." Alexis drove home, thought about Yemen, about Chen, Hayes, and Rodriguez, about the 12 hostages from the tunnel, about the 847 students at Fort Bragg, about Somalia, about every impossible choice she'd made. The weight was still there, would always be there, but she'd learned to carry it, learned that the ghosts weren't punishment, they were responsibility. They were a reminder of what mattered. She pulled into her driveway. Her father's truck was already there. He'd let himself in, was cooking dinner. The kitchen smelled like her mother's recipes. "You're late," Daniel called. "Food's getting cold." "Sorry, stop by the Anchor's Rest." Memories? Something like that. They ate together, father and daughter. Master Chief retired and Lieutenant Commander active. 312 students and 847 students. 2 generations of quiet professionals who'd learned that the loudest voice in the room was rarely the wisest. "I got orders today," Alexis said. "SEAL Team 7 wants me back full-time. No more split duty, full operational command." Daniel lowered his fork. "What'd you say?" "I said I needed to think about it." "What's there to think about? That's the assignment every SEAL commander wants." "Because I'm not sure I'm done teaching. Fort Bragg still needs instructors. Still needs people who'll teach operators to think, not just shoot." Daniel smiled. "You sound like me 30 years ago." "Is that bad?" "No, it's perfect. Because you've learned the real lesson. It's not about operations or teaching, it's about impact. And you can have impact either way. The question is, where do you think you're needed most right now?" Alexis thought about Lieutenant Chen, now a captain, commanding her own unit. About Staff Sergeant Davis, teaching at Fort Bragg. About the 470 recruits Bo had trained. About the ripples spreading out from one night in a bar 3 years ago. "I think I'm needed everywhere," she said finally. "So I'm going to propose something crazy to Admiral Garrett." "What's that?" "Joint assignment. 3 months operational. 3 months teaching. 3 months operational. 3 months teaching. Continuous rotation. That way I'm always operating, always teaching, always multiplying impact. Daniel laughed. The Navy's never going to approve that. Maybe, maybe not. But I'm going to ask, because I learned from the best that the right answer isn't always the obvious one. They finished dinner, cleaned up together, father and daughter moving through familiar rhythms. As Alexis left, Daniel called after her. Lexi, she turned. I'm proud of you. Not because of the medals, not because of the operations, because you learned what took me 20 years to figure out. That quiet competence changes the world more than loud heroics ever could. I learned it from you, Dad. No, you refined it, made it better, taught it to more people. That's how progress works. Each generation improves on the last. Daniel's eyes were bright. Your mother would be so proud. She always said you were going to change things. She was right. Alexis drove home, thought about her mother, about her father, about Chen, Hayes, and Rodriguez, about the 847 students, about the 12 hostages, about Bull's transformation, about every choice, every lesson, every moment that had brought her here. The mission continued. The teaching endured. And somewhere, in every hard call made by commanders she'd never meet, in every life saved by operators she'd never know, Alexis Kane's quiet competence echoed forward through time, creating ripples that would never stop spreading, never stop saving lives, never stop proving that the best warriors were the ones you never heard about, because they were too busy doing the work to talk about it. The quiet professionals, the ones who changed the world in silence.